Hi everyone, Melissa Hall here with QA Prep, and I am so excited for this interview. Today I am talking with Lisa Woodruff of Organized 365, which is a business and a really awesome podcast. So I learned about Lisa through the podcast that she has. I heard about her podcast on another podcast, as those of us who are obsessed with podcasts tend to do, and then actually went to a live event that Lisa was also attending, and we talked, and I think what she's doing is amazing, and it's going to be so helpful for so many of you because she helps people with organization. And one thing I've really liked about a lot of your resources, Lisa, is that you're providing kind of a different point of view. So a lot of the productivity or organization tools that are out there are really geared towards men in particular, but also towards like a lot of single men or people who maybe have a lot more flexibility in their schedule. And so it's really nice to hear a viewpoint from someone who's honestly saying, like,
from a middle-aged, overwhelmed mom.
Yeah. From someone who's like, I don't have 2 hours in the morning. And, yes. Or someone who's like, I tried waking up at 5:30 a.m. and it was horrible and it sucked.
Yeah.
So I will let you introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us about what Organized 365 is and about yourself and
Thanks, Melissa.
Maybe what got you into it.
Sure. So like I referenced, I'm a 45-year-old mom and woman. I'm part of the Gen X generation. We aren't talked about very much because we're little, but we're very, very busy. And I was a very, very organized child. I was organized in my early 20s, and I was organized even when we adopted our two awesome babies. But by the time those babies were 6 months and 2, and I had a full-time home-based business, but I pretended I was a stay-at-home mom, and they had a lot of medical conditions. It started to get too much for me, and all of a sudden I was paying bills late, and I was disorganized. I couldn't figure out what happened. And I got everything back in order again. I did fine for about 5 or 7 more years, and then I basically had a nervous breakdown one day, had my husband take the kids, and counted up. I had been to 110 doctor and school appointments in 360 days for my 2 kids.
Wow.
Yeah. So we were dealing with
those appointments.
Just those appointments. And so they were like, 4 and 5 or 5 and 6 at the time. And at that age, you don't really know what's going on. You just know something's going on. So you try everything. And there's actually a study out from California showing that adopted children actually get more psychiatric services than other children do. Like 80% of the psychiatric population are adopted children. And they were trying to figure out if that's because you don't know birth history, so you check out everything, or if you're adoptive parents and you're just it's easier to see things because it's not your flesh and blood. But it is like a huge percentage of adopted kids do end up with IEPs and seeing therapists that maybe you wouldn't if they were your birth children. And so I was seeing all of these doctors trying to figure everything out. My parents got divorced. Then we went through this recession and I ended up depressed. Like then my whole house was a mess. I'm an organized person. Like I was actually professionally organizing people. I didn't call myself that. I didn't know that's what I was doing, but I was taking money for it. That's for sure. I turned 40. I quit my teaching job in December. Big no-no. Put both my kids in a really expensive private school after I quit my job, came home the year I turned 40, walked around this house. I could recognize nothing. Every drawer was a junk drawer. Every closet was a mess. I was like, how am I going to come out of this? That was, almost 6 years ago. And so I was like, I'm going to start a blog. And I started Organized 365 January 1st of 2012. I turned 40 a few months later. I thought I'm going to get organized again because I was organized once. I can be organized again. I was a teacher. I knew everything was a learnable skill. I always believed organization was a learnable skill. And so I just set about to teach others and help myself get organized. And here we are almost 6 years later.
Awesome. Yeah, I guess that's part of it is that it's almost like you're documenting a part of your story, along the way. So it's not just like you're coming in as the expert, like, this is what you do. You're like, hey, I dealt with all this crazy stuff, and here's what happened. And I think a lot of people resonate with that. I know when I had my private practice and was working with people with ADHD, I had a lot of people come in who were new parents because it was sort of like they were high performing, they were able to manage everything, but then there was some catalyst, right? And for them, it was, having a new child, which is a huge thing. And that was like what put them over the edge where they could no longer manage the ADHD.
Right.
Now everything was all crazy. Whereas before they could maybe keep it hidden away in these little pockets. And I think for so many people, ADHD or not, or, anything like that, when you have all these added responsibilities, and I think of therapists who are working at an agency and commuting, and then they want to start their private practice. So now they have a part-time practice. So now they have something else to do. And then they're trying to, plan a wedding, or they're trying to then go home and actually spend time with their children. And all of these balancing acts, sometimes I think a lot of what, like the casualties of it is being organized.
Well, yeah. And especially for women, you need to allocate time to think. Like, it's not even so much that we're doing more housework, which we still are, according to the Pew Research Institute, we are. And generationally, that breaks down differently. So millennials are sharing the load much better. But even when millennials have kids, even though they tend to split housework and parenting, what they don't split is the mental thinking that goes on. That still is deferred to the woman. And so, yes, the guy will pick the baby up from daycare, but they depend on the wife to say the baby needs to be picked up from daycare and do that calendar and figure out if we have what we need for the baby party. Not 100% of the time, but more often than not. And women are just worn out by the amount of thinking and things that they need to remember. I mean, my kids are 16 and almost 18 right now. And so I'm running 3 Google calendars. They're not driving, so I'm driving everywhere. And it's a lot. I said to my husband the other day, I am literally running 3 adult lives basically right now. And it is a lot to constantly think about. I spend about 30 minutes every other day just updating everyone's calendars and physically putting in drive time so I don't forget to leave early enough and don't get a appointment booked when I'm supposed to be in the car when I need to be on a Zoom call. So I need to put that in so my calendar doesn't get scheduled.
Yeah, I think, and that's such a key point. And it's funny because one of the things I recommend when I'm talking to therapists about like writing notes specifically, they want like content, like, therapists will ask me like, well, what is it that I should write? What interventions are supposed to be in the note, or what sections have to be in there? And one of the big things I always recommend first is you have to sit back and you take a couple of minutes to reflect. First, you have to think about what you're going to write first. You have to think about what you're going to do. And then same thing with scheduling. I'll tell people, it's worth it to take the time and plan out your schedule. Look at how many clients you have, so that means how many notes do you actually have to do? How long does it take you to do notes? And you have to plan that in your schedule. And people find that so helpful. But I think it's important to note you have to do that with all aspects of your life, right? Anything that requires paper, organizing, taking that time to think about it or plan out your calendar actually saves you time and, most importantly, stress in the long run.
And it's 5 times. Like if you spend 5 minutes the night before writing out your to-do list on a little index card, you save yourself 25 minutes. And you think, no, it's not really that much time and I'm too tired and I'm not going to write it out. Well, okay, fine. Give yourself a test. Every night this week, write it out the night before. Set a timer, 5 minutes only. Just write out what you're going to do the next day. And then see how much more smoothly the next day goes. And as the unexpected things come your way, you've already written out your list so you know what you're going to substitute. Then do a week like you used to do where you're not doing it, and you will 100% realize, oh my gosh, that is such a game changer. 5 minutes a night just on an index card, which is the same size as your phone. I often will put the index card right in my pocket with my phone.
Yeah. Or I even have on my phone, I have the one of those like wallet cases. So, could slide a card in there. You could easily like fold up that little index card and put it in there. Or I could see even if you have an app on your phone that you use, you could write those 5 bullet points down right there. So you're always referencing that. That's an awesome recommendation. So
I've had to do everything to try to find more time. How do you run a full-time business and take care of 2 teenagers and drive all the time? Like, it's impossible if you're not organized and productive. And it takes a lot of effort to become organized and productive today.
Yes, yeah, and I think that's one of the things I love that you talk about too. You have a program, the 100-day, is it 100-day organization program? Is that what it's
Yeah.
called?
Yeah.
Um, and I love that you talk about how some people think they're going to do the program in 100 days, they're going to be organized. And you say that what it typically takes people like 3 times going through it at least.
Right. So it's still in one calendar year because I run it 3 times a year, January 1st, Memorial Day, and Labor Day. But yeah, you're never going to find a perfect 100 days.
Yes. And I think it's important to remember, like, you have to forgive yourself about some and be kind to yourself with that,
Right.
and realize, okay, it's not all going to be perfect. I'm not going to do this thing and have this New Year's resolution and everything's going to be, I'm going to start off January perfectly. It's more about, okay, what are a couple of things I can focus on right now, or one thing I can focus on right now, and that it's a process.
Yes.
Right.
100%.
What are some of the most common, because I know you work with a lot of different types of people, or have worked with a lot of different types of people. What are some of the most common problems you've seen with people organizing paperwork?
Okay, I was going to just answer in general, but I'll go to paperwork. So in general, like if you just want to get
Yeah, both is
organized in
good.
general, the biggest mental mind shift I see people need to make is that they were either organized or unorganized as a child, and they're trying to get back to that organization that they had as a child when all they were responsible for was their backpack, their bedroom, and eventually a car. Like it was those 3 things and that was it. And then they leave their parents' home and they start off in their 20s, and they either can continue that until they have children, or they're already disorganized as soon as they move into their first space, and they try to resort back to whatever worked when they were a child. So I've actually determined there are 4 phases of life. It's childhood, and then your 20s and 30s, and then 40 to 55, and then 55 plus. And each of those phases of life have their own organizational patterns. And as you move from one phase to the next, you go through transition and you get completely disorganized again, and you have to learn new organization. So the easiest way to explain it is just think about a kitchen. So right now I have 2 teenagers. We ask them to give us what they want in the kitchen before we go grocery shopping. So all they have to do is they actually put it right on the app for us. We go to the grocery store, we bring the food into the house, and they, like little squirrels, take it up to their bedrooms. They even have their own little refrigerators. So they take their food up there. That's all they need the kitchen for, is like a food delivery device for free. Then you move into your own house and you have to do the grocery shopping, you have to do the meal planning, you have to figure out how to organize a pantry and all of that stuff, couponing, whatever you're going to do. And then you get into the survival phase of life, which is your 40s and early 50s, with middle school, high school, and college age students. And at this point, your kitchen really is a heated up and beverage station. Like you need more different kinds of cups for protein drinks and smoothies and coffees and teas and wine and whatever. Like you need all of these drinks and all of the glasses that go with them. You need your food in a crock pot because nobody's ever home at the same time. And you have a lot of takeout stuff that you can quickly microwave or serve for one person or the whole family. It's very hit or miss during that time. Then when you move 55 plus and your last child's gone off to college, then your kitchen changes again. You're usually cooking for 1 or 2 every night, but you have to hold on to everything in the world because all of the holidays are at your house. So you have to have all of the stuff you need when your immediate family comes back and all the extended, because now you're the head of the household. But then on a day-to-day basis, you're dealing with like 1 cabinet full of stuff. And so if you just look at the kitchen that way, then you realize, oh my gosh, that's so true about every single room in your house. So really embrace the phase of life you're in, what the need is for that phase of life, and then take action. So real quickly, that would be in childhood, it's just maintaining your bedroom, which I call your mini apartment. And then in the 20s and 30s, it's accumulation. You need to go buy everything. So you buy a picture and then you realize you don't have a hammer and nails. So every time you go to do anything, you have to go back to the hardware store. It's ridiculous.
Or IKEA.
Yes. And then in your 40s and 50s, you're in your car all the time. You'd be organized if you were home, but you're never there. So everything has to be on the go. And then 55 plus is downsizing and focusing on the legacy. What is the legacy of this stuff? So that's the big, broad, overwhelming. Now, paper is very similar in every single age group, but I didn't want to show you paper similar in every age group. And then you go, well, why isn't this working for the rest of my house? It's because you need to approach it with the right mindset. What size is my family? What phase are we in? And what are my standards of decluttering? Do you like tchotchkes or not. I happen to kind of like them. I am not a minimalist. So not everybody has to become a minimalist in order to get organized. What is your level of organization?
Yeah. And I think even you hear this a lot from people who grew up in big families and then they move in and maybe, it's just them and their spouse and they talk about how they have so much trouble cooking, right? Because they always cook for, 12 people or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And so I never really thought about it in that way. But yeah, there's so many things that are different when you're a child and even just a college student to when you have to really manage your own home. And then when kids are in the mix and you're having to manage someone else's schedule and someone else, like all of their needs. And then as that progresses and then having to drive people everywhere as you do with teenagers when you're constantly in the car, and that sucks up just a lot of your actual time, like time out of your day.
Yes.
So
like 25 hours a week, in case you're wondering.
Yes, I believe it.
Yeah. And when I talk to women that are in their 40s and I make them write down their driving time, they're like, I have a part-time job driving. I'm like, yeah, that's why you get nothing done. And they're like, it just helps them think, okay, it's not that I'm not organized. It's not that I can't do this. It's that I physically am not home. Like it's an unrealistic expectation that I would be able to do what I could do in my 20s and 30s when literally preschool was across the street.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why I think one of the key things is really writing out your schedule or doing like a time study for yourself and understanding how much time do you actually spend on, I know business-wise, a lot of people don't think about how much time they spend on administrative stuff. How many hours do you actually spend each week answering email? How many hours each week do you have to spend on things like billing or managing payments from people? And that's on top of notes and having to communicate with current clients about, rescheduling or canceled appointments or whatever.
Yeah. And I call those office hours. And way back when I was in direct sales 20 years ago and I had a team, I always taught my team to have 10 hours of office hours a week. And that was just your, 2 hours a day to do all of the stuff that you needed in order to support your actual in front of clients business. That's a very reasonable number. So if you can get an assistant for 5 hours, you're still going to have 5 hours yourself. It's about 10 hours if you're running a full-time business.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, let's dig into how do you see that with paperwork? Yeah, no, I love it.
So the biggest problem with paperwork is we think we're going paperless. We're not.
Yes.
So
yes, I do tell people that.
10 years ago, I was like, yes, we're going paperless. So I'm going to go paperless. And I about killed myself. And I realized, you know what? They're lying to us. Like we are not going paperless. So you can go paperless, but the process of going paperless is to get more paper first. So you actually need to figure it out on paper real time and then scan it or file it or organize it. And I'm actually launching a second podcast on December 31st, 2017 called The Sundae Basket. I'm going to show you guys the Sundae Basket. And I'm going to talk all about paper organizing all year. And if you follow the podcast all year long, the goal is at the end of the year, all of your home paper will be organized.
I love it.
So this is the Sundae Basket. And this is where I tell everybody to start even before they do the 100-day home organization program. This is where I started when I had the 2-year-old and the 6-month-old, and I felt so overwhelmed. You need a place for your daily mail, actionable papers, things that need to be returned, errands to run, all of that stuff, notes to yourself, all the notes you write to yourself all day long. They need a place to go. Otherwise, they'll be in your car, in your purse, by your bathtub, in the laundry room. They'll be all over the place. So yes, it's overwhelming to have them in one place, but put them all in one place. And it's a Sundae basket. So on Sunday, we empty out the basket and we open all the mail and we do all the things you need to do. Now, I don't even open my mail anymore, and I don't stand in front of the trash can and recycle and shred and then put my bill somewhere else. I don't even do that anymore. I just dump it all in the basket. There is no mail you're going to get on Monday that can't wait until Sunday. Like it came in the mail, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And I print out emails all the time. Like if I have an actionable to do, I just printed out one before we got started. What was it? Oh yeah, my sister. She just gave me her list of what she wants for Christmas. I just printed it out. It'll go right in the Sundae basket.
So basically you're putting it all in one place so I have a set time and one place to go.
Yes. Yes. And then all you do is you go through it. Now I've created a system and there are 2 online workshops, or you can become a certified organizer and do it yourself. This is the first class. And the first class, I teach you how to organize things based on if they need to go on your calendar or your computer, outside of the house and errands or medical and paperwork. Sorry about that. Money and mail. And then our second one, which is I think what you wanted to talk about, this is Sunday Basket 2.0. I just manufactured these slash pockets. Do you like office supplies? Oh my
I know.
Look,
Organization.
look, they're all color coded. They're only 4 colors. Do you see that? Isn't that so cool?
But yeah, and look, you have like your different business things set up in there.
So this is all household, actually. This is the pink is me, blue is family, green is money, and orange is household. So this is actually my household Sunday basket. But coming in March, I will teach you how to make a Sunday basket for your home-based business or your direct sales business or a volunteer thing. This is just for my personal family. We have more paperwork than we realize. So in addition to this, you need a couple of binders and pretty much your filing cabinet can go away. But it's a process.
Yeah, and I noticed you have like a to scan folder there, which I think is one of the big things when people think, but I am going, and I do genuinely try to go as paperless as possible, but you still get paper, right? You still get stuff in the mail. There's still, I think especially like, I think of play therapists, like people who work with kids, they have a ton of paper. And you talked about like at school, right? If you have kids, they're still always bringing paper home from school. So
if you're looking at this, like, what is it going to look like for a business? All right, you're going to have your first 5. Those will be the same. What has to go on your calendar and your computer, what needs to be done outside of the house, what needs to be mailed or money. And then you're going to have 20 slash pockets in 4 colors. So for a therapist, it would be new clients and bookings, and then additional money related things, and then marketing and lead generation, and then maybe ongoing personal development or notes that need to be typed up. You'll have 4 classifications of work that you do, and then you add in slash pockets, and you could buy a second set. So you'll have 40 if you want for the business one.
I love it. Yeah. And that way you can put that all in one. You could have a tiny little filing cabinet and you can put it all in that one little spot. And that way you always know. And so you call it the Sunday basket because you basically have an appointment with yourself every Sunday where that is the time where you go through all of this, right?
So this could be your Friday box. Now this is a prototype. They're actually being made right now. This is the actual Sunday basket. See how it holds the files up? Then there's a little pocket in here. You could put a checkbook or pens if you want. And then this is an open space. So if you were going to use this for your therapy practice, you could keep this right on your desk. And then it could be your Friday box instead of a Sunday basket. And then all throughout the week, okay, I printed that email off. I took notes from this client. I wrote down these ideas of things I want to do. And then Friday at 2 is the best time if you can. That's when you pull all of this out, you put it in the files, you do, and you make your list for next week of, okay, what do I need to buy before next week? Who do I need to get back to? Friday afternoon is the best time to email people because they don't want to be working. So they'll just be answering emails instead of doing anything else. But it also gets it off of your plate and onto theirs in case you have a Monday morning appointment and you don't want to find that out Monday morning. Or you have a meeting with, a banker on Tuesday, email them on Friday. Is there anything else I'm going to need? Even if they reply back next Monday, you're much more prepared.
Yeah, so it's sort of your way of like closing up the week. Okay, now I'm prepared for next week and have everything set up and I've gone through everything. And what about even things like money that you get, like checks that you're actually getting? Do you still put that in there or do you actually like open that up and deposit it right away?
Yeah, it's terrible. I have one of those Ebates checks that's been in my purse for quite a while. So maybe I wait a while. Depends how bad I need the money. But if you're taking like for a therapist, if you're getting money, then I would be putting your checks in that green envelope. So at least you know right where they are. And then maybe you deposit that twice a week. Then you go through and you take them out and you write it up. But at least you have one place to put them. When I did direct sales, I had a little tiny basket and that's where all money and checks went. So I always knew where it was. You don't want it to go. I probably wouldn't just drop money in here.
But that way, at least you have one central location, I think is really the key here.
Yes. Don't try to keep filing things all the time. That's just going to take too much time. But for the money, I'll give you permission to do that for the money.
So everything else you're just throwing in the basket. And then on your Friday or Sunday or whatever day works appointment, you are like basically dumping it all out, prioritizing it.
Yep. It's a
and
whole
then
system. Yep.
filing it there so you know what to deal with when.
Yes, correct.
Awesome. Awesome. And one of the things I know that a lot of the people who follow me struggle with, and they might be thinking, well, okay, maybe I could do this, but I have ADHD, or like you're talking about those people who think as a kid I was either organized or unorganized, right?
Yes.
And I think a lot of people with ADHD do get labeled as that unorganized kid or that messy
Right.
kid.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you see that play into here, like specifically? Are there any special considerations that you find? Because I know you have worked with a lot of people who have ADHD.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, when I was a teacher, I actually would make binders for my kids who had ADHD because all the teachers are like, bring a yellow notebook and this one has to be a red folder. And it just does not work for kids with ADHD. I would always give them one big binder, like a 3-inch binder, and I'd put a set of 8 slash pockets in there. And the slash pocket color of your class would be whatever order your class came in. And I would start at the top and I would go through their schedule. And it was all in one binder. So this works for ADHD because it's one place for the stuff. Everything goes in there. And then one time a week to go through it. The thing is, you have to go through it every week, especially people with ADHD are naturally overwhelmed, which is why they don't get organized. It's not that they can't, it's that they're just overwhelmed. My kids both have ADHD and working ready for exams, and overwhelmed is an understatement, which increases anxiety and just all kinds of things. So when you have one place, if you don't go through it on Sunday, next Sunday, it's going to be unbearable. So you have to make sure that you do it every single Sunday. And then also the other big thing with ADHD is less is more. So you may not even want all 25 of these slash pockets. This may be too many slash pockets for you. 5 may be perfect. You take Sunday Basket 1.0 and go, I'm good. I'll stick with these 5 and that's it. Or you have these 5 and you just add 5 more. 25 is probably your max because the more you file things, the easier it is to lose them. But because they're colors, really, they're 5 plus 4 colors, then each color will only seem like one additional thing for you, which is why I love and why I actually manufactured slash pockets. Like, who manufactures their own slash pockets? But it is so much, even though there are 20 slash pockets, it's so much less overwhelming in 4 colors than like this. I mean, this is overwhelming. It doesn't work. See, it's just too random, even though it's the same amount. This seems so much more manageable. Okay, I'm going to work on my pink pockets on Monday and my green pockets on Thursday. Now you're constantly segmenting yourself down to a manageable level of pockets and actionable to-dos.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's a combination of, I love what you said about having it all in one place, because even when I was looking for my own electronic health record for managing client files and everything, I picked one that maybe was not necessarily my favorite, but I chose it because it had everything all in one place.
Right. The all-in-one is huge.
Yes. And I was like, I know that's what I need. I do not want to have to go to this website to see clients online and go to this website to manage this and have to send emails. No, like can't do that.
And the number one help for people who have ADHD, bar none, no matter what, if it's in your business, if it's a kid in your home or whatever, is always hiring help. Always, every single time. So if this is an area that you struggle in, then I would work and take 2 more patients on so that you can have an admin. And then they go through your Sunday Basket and they make your schedule for you. You're great at what you do. So it's not really a big deal for you to take on 2 more clients. And if that money is earmarked for your admin, you will be happier about what you do. Your business will be more organized. The admin will love their job. They will love supporting you. I mean, if you can, still use the Sunday Basket because you need the one place for the admin to go, but hiring help is always, always, always going to be your fastest way to success in organization with ADHD.
Yeah, I think that's so important to remember. And I think that's where women get stuck, especially because they think, well, I'm the mom, but I'm a business owner, but I'm supposed to be able to manage all of this. Right.
Yes.
And it's like, no. And I know I don't remember if it's Terry Matlin. It's one of these ADHD coaches, and she frames it as accommodations. And she says, you think
Yes.
about when you're a kid, you have accommodations in
Yes.
school, like maybe you need extra time or whatever it was
Or
for your
read to you.
ADHD. Yes, something read to you. But when you're an adult, your tasks are just different. And she talks about maybe your accommodations are having a housekeeper or having
your
a
laundry
meal
done.
Yes, or a meal order service or something like that.
Yes.
And I love this idea about if you take on 1 or 2 extra clients, just earmark that money just for your admin person and think of it as that. And yes, you will be doing what you love and you will be making your job easier at the same time.
And a good admin, they can probably get it done in 5 hours a week. It's not going to take them very long. It takes you a long time. Just like you can do therapy without thinking about it, they can do admin without, I'm not saying you don't think when you do your job. I'm just saying
but
what comes easily comes to you, comes easily to them also. And so you could do it for 15 hours a week. It still feel like it's not working, or they could do it in 5 and it'll be pretty much perfect, even though I don't do the perfect thing.
Totally. Yeah, I love that. I think that makes so much sense. And I think a lot of people need permission. They need to hear that from someone to say, oh, okay, maybe that is something I should do. And I think I've never heard a single person who hired like a virtual assistant or an administrative assistant regret it later.
No.
I mean, unless maybe they just hired some random person and didn't do a little bit of vetting.
Still.
But for the most part, everyone says, I wish I had done this 6 months sooner.
Yep.
Even if it's 5 hours a week, something like that. Now, I know one of the big things that's a struggle if people are really behind and really unorganized, and this has been building up, is tackling it, in the beginning, right? It's that first actually going through everything. And one of the things that you offer are workshops. Can you talk a little bit about that? And I actually went through one, what was it, like a week and a half ago or so?
Yeah.
And this is kind of using that body doubling technique, which is super helpful. So I think this is a great way to just tackle it. So would you tell us a little bit about your it's just the Sundae basket workshop, right?
Yes. And you could do these live or virtually. So there are live certified workshop organizers who do the same exact thing in person, because some people do better one-on-one in person. I know my kids do. And other people just like to do it virtually. So I teach the ones online, and then I have certified organizers that teach them in different states. We're in the US and Canada right now. But what we do is you come together for 90 minutes and you just bring your mail and your actionable to-dos. And I actually mail you my book and the first 5 slash pockets, and we fill those slash pockets together. I tell you exactly what goes in the slash pockets. You fill them, and I'm just answering questions as we go through that 90 minutes together. And then if you want to add on the 20 slash pockets to make, the rest, that's Sundae Basket 2.0, and that is a 2-hour class. And it's basically done the Pomodoro method. So like I talk for 15 to 20 minutes, and you work for 20 minutes, and then I talk, and then you work. And so by the end, you've done about an hour of working, and I've done about an hour of talking. And again, your slash pockets are filled. So it's the act of figuring out what your slash pockets should be, because everybody's are different. The first 5 are the same, but the last 20 are all different. So we brainstorm, and I give you 7 minutes to figure out what you want yours to be. And then we come back together, and the whole class goes through them. So you can change if you want. Oh, that was a better idea than what I had. I want that pocket instead. And then we actually sit there and fill them, and I answer your questions. So at the end of those 2 workshops, you have a functioning Sundae basket. Now my basket won't be out until March, but the 2 workshops are ready now.
Yeah. So I love it because people can use whatever, or even those folders. I know for now, I just put them in a bag that I have, and it just works. But it's super helpful to organize all of the home stuff and all of the business stuff, and think about, okay, now I have a place to put all of this paper, so I know exactly where I'm going to go. And the workshop was helpful because I know for me, I am that person where I don't have an insane amount of paper to deal with, but a lot of it has just been, I procrastinate on it. And, like, oh, that's been there for 2 months now, right?
Yes.
So it was nice because I had that appointment. I knew I was going to be there. And a lot of it was in the first workshop was you simply letting, everyone's just organizing their stuff. And then, we could ask a question, type in, say, where would I put, this form or this thing? And you would help people with, okay, well, you want to put that in the money and mail folder or whatever. So it was so helpful to have that space, and then also to see how many other people were like, yeah,
Yes.
I have all this other stuff.
Yes, you don't feel so alone. I mean, when you do it on your own, you're like, I have to go do the Sunday basket. Now, I like to do my Sunday basket, but and I'm going to start a club in the new year so that people can do it weekly. That's what they want. They're like, we want to do it every
Yes.
single week. I'm like, you with me? They're like, yes. I was like, really? They're like, yep. So we're going to do it every single week. I'm not actually doing it every week. I have an organizer that's going to do that, but I am going to do an every other week training in that as well. So it'll just be an online little membership site. People want the accountability and they want it on their list. They want somebody, they want mom to say, have you cleaned your room? Like, have you done your Sunday basket?
Exactly. Yeah, no, I love it,
Yeah.
because that's what I would want too, because it's great, but then it's, am I really going to follow through with that appointment every 2:00 every Friday, or,
Yes.
every Sunday afternoon? It's much easier when I think, oh, but I have this appointment and someone might notice if I'm not there, or even if somebody wouldn't, you just feel like I have this appointment I have to attend.
Yeah, we're actually going to take attendance. So
I love it. No, I think,
I mean, people are like, no, Lisa, you have to read that Four Tendencies book. So I read it and I was like, I got it. They're like, no, well, you have to tell us. And then you have to take attendance. So just, you're going to pay me to take attendance. They go, yeah. I'm like, okay, we will take attendance.
yes, I know.
Yeah. Like it
It's
really does help them.
crazy, but it works. And I've said
Yes.
this, I've said this a bunch of times too. Like, that is one of the things I know that I need accountability. And
Mm-hmm.
that is one of those things sometimes I just have to pay for. And that's what helps me get things done.
Well, and organizing paper is different than organizing like a toy room or a kitchen, because like I'm holding this piece of paper and I want an answer about this piece of paper. Like, how do you look that up? It's really, really hard. But if you have, a workshop organizer running the class, then you say, I'm holding my dad's death certificate. What do I do with that? Like, you don't Google that. You'd be like 8 hours to find out that you put it with your passport, and we could just say, put it with your passport. Okay. And you're on to the next thing. So you're really also getting your questions answered in real time. And that's really helpful when you're organizing paper.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that could be a whole other thing, is talking about like your important documents. And I know personally that was something my husband and I did. We had a whole, like, I think it was a week where we emptied out a huge filing cabinet we had, and
Wow.
scanned everything, and
Wow.
wanted it all to be online so we could literally get rid of this filing cabinet and all that paper. And, but one of the big things we were like was, okay, well, what are the forms there are papers you actually have to keep, like your marriage certificate, your passport, your social security cards, all that kind of stuff. Right.
Yes.
And where do you keep that? And so now it's even better, because I know, like, if there's an emergency, we have this one little like box.
Yes.
And we both know, like, you just grab that and we have everything that we would need to basically like leave the country, start a life, get a job somewhere else, whatever it is. All of our important stuff is right there.
And unfortunately, I mean, with all of the hurricanes and the California fires, I mean, we say that, but now there are 5 different states where people are doing that. Like, they have decided, oh, today is the day, because so many people have literally lost everything in minutes. They didn't have enough time to go and get it even out of the filing cabinet, but had it been in that box, they would have grabbed that when they grabbed the dog on the way out, and they didn't have it that organized. And that's like a morbid way to look at it. But, sometimes it takes multiple natural disasters for us to realize that, maybe we don't need a 16 drawer filing cabinet, but if we had this to go file, then we could do everything else.
Yeah. But I know for me, my husband is naturally a lot more organized, and he's very type A. So he was the one who was much better about being like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to put it here. And if you don't have that person in your life, or if that person is too busy, or if you're that person and you're too busy, it can be nice to have someone like you say, okay, yeah, here's a great way to do it. Here's a way to organize it. Put this all together. And you need those things, like even for your business license and a professional will and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So awesome. Okay. I think you've given us a lot of great resources and ideas, and there's also your books. I was going to grab them. I have both of your books right here. And one of them comes with
The
this
mindset of
one.
organization comes with the Sunday basket class. Yeah.
Yeah.
That defines those 4 generations I talked about, or
So
phases of life.
I love that the Sunday basket class, you send us the slash pockets, you send us the book, and then you have this appointment and you can just show up. Or you can, if you're fortunate enough to be in a city where there is a professional organizer who's licensed to run the workshop, you can show up live with all your stuff.
Yeah.
And then you have this one specifically about ADHD.
Yep.
As well.
Yep. And that's from, both my kids have ADHD. I taught people with ADHD, and I am a researcher. I saw on your email, you're an
ENFP.
Yeah, I am an ENTJ. I don't know what any of them mean. So, but I'm a researcher. I'm the one that researches and doesn't know details and can't spell. That's me, whatever one that one is. So it's so funny. In my Facebook group, everybody wanted to know what everybody was. I was like, I don't know what I am. And they were like, you are an ENTJ. We figured it out. I was like, is that a good one? Like, I don't even know. But I research like crazy. And so, there isn't not a medical professional we haven't seen or alternative thing we have not tried to help my kids. And the best thing for my son with the ADHD is cod liver oil. Like, he won't go a day without cod liver oil. It makes such a difference for him. And, it's very individualized, but they went to a school that specialized in learning disabilities, and the majority of the kids also have ADHD. And so they would bring in speakers every year, like the world-renowned speakers, and we would go hear them. And so I learned a lot about how the brain works. And then I just took that prefrontal 8 executive functions and broke it down into how that actually impacts a woman in a home. How that impacts your home organization, because nobody really cares. Like, they care about work and school and all of that, but nobody really has done the research to figure out how does ADHD impact your home life. And that's what I did.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's important. I think that is, especially for women, not to generalize too much, but I think that is the majority of the cases where if things are unstructured at home or not going well at home, or you feel unorganized at home, it impacts every area of your life. And it makes you stressed out when you're leaving the home because you feel like, oh, I should be here doing this. It makes you stressed out when you come back home because then you feel overwhelmed with all the things that have to be done. And you're thinking about that while you're at work. And then if things get stressful at work, it just exacerbates the whole thing. So
yeah.
I think it's so important to do one last quick question. If people are feeling like I'm really unorganized in my business and at home, do you feel like it's maybe personalized, but do you feel like there's one best place to start?
So I could have done business organization, and almost all professional organizers that work online do business because that's where the money is. Like, businesses will pay because of productivity. There is not money in helping people get organized at home, but that is what I'm passionate about. And so that is what I talk about, is getting organized at home. It increases marital satisfaction. It increases your time on the job. It helps you feel like a better woman. So I focus 100% on home organization, both paper and physical organization. And even the Sunday basket, just the Sunday basket, making that makes you feel like you are that together mom. Because when somebody asks you for something, you go in the Sunday basket and it's there. And women say all the time, like, used to be they would ask me for things, I didn't know where it was, and then they were mad, and then I was mad at myself. And now, even though I don't do the Sunday basket every week, Lisa, they're like, I still know that that's where it is, and so I feel better about myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great point. And so I do think starting at home, even if it feels like, oh, but my business or my practice, I have to do this. I think starting at home can have one of the biggest mental impacts, which will ultimately help you in all areas of life.
For sure.
Cool. Your dogs.
Yes,
I just my son's dog, right?
Home for just one dog, Hunter.
Yeah.
I talk about Hunter more than my children.
So where can people find you and sign up for this Sunday basket workshop, which is very, very affordable and easy to do as a first step?
So the sundaybasket.com is where you can also click on Organization 101. It'll just show you everything we just said for free. So you could do it for free on your own, or it's $30 for the first workshop and $50 for the second one, but I mail you the supplies. And then everything home organization related is over at Organize 365. And that's the name of the podcasts as well, Organized 365 and the Sunday Basket.
Cool. And we will link to all of that stuff.
Yay!
Awesome.
Get organized, you guys.
Yes, you can do it. You can do it.
Thank you so much, Maelisa, for having me.
Thanks for helping us all. All right.
Yeah,
thanks.
this is awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye.